Hey, it's Gordon. Welcome to the bench. Tonight, it is a Miller's patent plow plane. It has some serious rosewood problems, of course, or it wouldn't be here, and its parts are showing up in a body bag. So stick around and let's make a plan. We can fix this one. So here we have it. It's a Miller's patent plane. This is the body, of course, and the rosewood, which is pinned to the main body. When we're talking about a project like this, I need the rosewood and the mating parts, whatever the rosewood fits into. So I don't need the fence, I don't need all the other components, and what the owner did was removed all those and sent just the body. That reduces the shipping costs, it reduces the risk, and frankly, we're gonna make this beautiful, and I have everything I need right here in the rosewood parts. So that's a little side note. Same would go for a rosewood repair if it were a tote or a handle. I would prefer to have the actual brass barrel nut that goes with it and the rod so that I can fit those together and make sure the diameters vary slightly from make to make and year to year, but not much. But it really just helps to make sure that the actual brass mating part goes with the rosewood. So when I'm taking delivery on certain things, that's what I'm asking for. I have planes that I can always fit a handle to. I don't need any of the rest of this part. So there's what we have in the package. If you're wondering where the rest of the Miller's patent plane is, it is not here. So, okay. What else do we have in the box? We have the Humpty Dumpty parts that we looked at, things that are already broken. We'll open this and take a look. And then if you're paying attention, you might see this and say, what's going on? This was a donor piece. So this was thrown in the box. It is Brazilian rosewood, and the owner suggested maybe that it would help along the way. And we will see. The jury is out on that. I really appreciate it. We'll always use those scraps of rosewood, and I'll always keep things, especially when it's a full horn like that. That's pretty rare to have this half of it. So that's a cool thing. But let's come up with a plan. So let's zoom in a little bit closer. I'm gonna get the packaging out of the way and take a look at what we're dealing with. We have our original pieces, which is good. I understand where this came from. That's pretty simple. We kind of know what's going on here. There's evidence of the pin where there's should be a through pin that holds this thing together. It's right there. That's this one. I don't know what this guy does. There's some finish, so it's gonna be on the inside. So it's good to have those original pieces. We are definitely gonna use those. Why is there tape holding this on when the rosewood should be in place? That's also an indicator. So if we get in here, what I suspect is that there's more damage yet. We're holding stuff together. Original casting goes all the way through. This is kind of like, the rosewood's like a C shape that just slides on over, and then they drive a pin all the way through on this plane. On some Stanleys, like 45 in certain eras, it's a blind pin. It's visible from one side, it goes through the rosewood into the metal, but does not protrude on the other side. What we're gonna see on this Miller is that it goes all the way through. That's kind of a good thing. I can tell you right now, I'm not taking that pin out though. We'll talk more about that. Let's see what's going on with the tape. First, there's the answer. So this is, it's like a toenail that needs to be pulled off. I like that it was taped, and I like that we preserved the crisp lines, and that this will definitely make it easier to bond this back together. However, when you have a situation like this, I have found that it's more difficult to try and inject epoxy or try and reach in here with a needle and get good coverage and make sure that that's got proper adhesive and that it's clean and free of any debris or obstructions. It's just easier to take it off. So we're just gonna do that right now. Let's not delay. I'm not just gonna rip it off and cause more damage. I'm actually trying to apply a little bit of pressure in one direction so we can keep the fibers. There we go. Keep that guy there and keep him here. So there's the rest of it. don't know what that is, crud or paint or something. We'll peel it up. This flat, and you can see that in my light, that flat is not supposed to be there. That's going to be impact. So this thing landed on the horn of the rosewood, and the shock blew it apart. And there's the silver paint that we saw on the rosewood too. It's on the actual plane body. What's fortunate and very cool here is that none of the casting doesn't have a nick, not even a small tiny mark in it. So I can get that back in frame. This all looks wonderful. So very good. Okay, the plan. We're gonna clean this up. I'm one step at a time, guys. So I'll tell you what we're not gonna do. We're not gonna take all these pieces, butter them all up with epoxy and try and mash them all together and hope for a really good repair. We're gonna do one thing at a time. So it'll take time, but it will be worth it to go in baby steps. This is why you don't want to inject epoxy in there. You saw those flakes. What you'll do is you'll wet one side of it, clamp it together, and you think you've got it covered, and what you have is a partial bond, and that's not good. This all looks really good too. It's not punky, it's not dried out, or I've seen some that are heavily weathered and they've checked. They've got a lot of open areas in them. This is a really nice piece of rosewood. The horn up top looks good. We're gonna leave all that patina on this little wear, make it age appropriate. And then we're gonna go ahead and reattach the pieces and build back out and repair the tip. That's the goal. Now, before we jump into the epoxy mix, you might suggest, or somebody might suggest, make a new one. Right, you're this far, Gordon, why wouldn't you just cut this out and make a new one? Two reasons. One is, and the secondary reason is, this pin could be nightmarish. You have, it's peened over, you have a casting that's, extremely old. I don't want to mess with it. I don't want to introduce any impact, vibration, chance of breaking the casting. I would just leave it. In fact, there's our little piece that was put with the plane. This will probably see that. I love that. We can work with this, and I can reinsert just a little piece right here that's missing. We'll leave that alone, and we're already past the pins. So my answer would be we're not doing a new one for the sheer sake of the pins and all the trauma and heartache that would come along with breaking that or screwing it up. Second, and the single most important reason you would not just make a new one and throw it on there is this. And I'm gonna go ahead and try and zoom so you can see this, and then I'll play with the light a little bit. There we go. Right there. There's the Miller's patent stamp and the patent date, right, in the wood. Now, if we just made a new one, could you recreate that? I'll bet you I can read the year in here under microscope or under magnification. But I see the Miller's, there's M-I-L-L-E-R-S P-A-T-E-N-T, Miller's patent in an arch, and then the date right across here. So let's go to magnification. I tell you what, let's just put a picture in a picture here, and let me zoom in on that and show you what I'm talking about. So in the world of authenticity, we want to make sure that this is the original rosewood that goes with the plane, and we're going to do that. We've got all the parts. I can introduce new rosewood where I need to, which will be very tiny amounts, and then we will match this all in, and our goal will be to make this appear to be an original patent, original Miller's patent rosewood handle, which it is, and we'll try and make it look unbroken. But again, there's people out there that look for these things right there, and I see it. So now you see it. Okay, enough of that. Let's get started. Let's start. For our first repair on this, for the first glue up, there's a couple things we need to do. One is we need to prep the surface, and I'm going to relieve this just a little bit and make room for my epoxy. But at the same time, let me grab a bamboo skewer and show you why. Let's zoom in on this a little bit. Okay, so this is going to be our glue surface, and watch this. See that? There's those little flags or little pieces of loose material. I don't need that. I don't want this in there. That's just going to cause problems. We're going to get adhesive on one side, maybe not on the other. So by prepping the surface, even though this is a brand new break, you saw me pull it apart, I will go ahead and remove a 1/2 millimeter of material with a tiny ball, and I use a burr like this. Okay, so we're just going to go in here. I'm not going to come around the outside. I don't want to violate this perimeter, and I don't want to enhance the break line. If I start carving on the finish out here, that'll look horrible. So let's just do this. Just doing this freehand. You'll never see this. Now by doing that, I left this perimeter out here. So when we squeeze this together and clamp it, it's still solid wood to solid wood. And that's what we want. So we brush that off. You can use a wire brush. Get any little boogers off there that we don't want. Okay? So we've opened that up a little bit, but I've left a perimeter. Same thing for this guy. It looks pretty clean. Let me turn it where you can see it. Looks pretty good, right? Wrong. I'll bet you there's some stuff in here right there. And actually we got this whole piece too. He's one of the perimeters, so I am gonna leave that one in. I'm gonna butter the bottom side of it. I'm gonna press it in place just so I don't screw up this. That's gonna help us on our gap, or on the actual glue line. So I want to leave that one in place. The rest of this looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and prep that surface too. Okay, this guy's here. Remember, we're going to put a little bit of epoxy underneath. Put him down, clamp him together. Okay, like that. So you can see what's going on. What are we using? G2, of course, System 3 G2, formulated for oily woods. That's Rosewood. G2, this is our hardener. It is a 2-to-1 ratio, and we're going to mix in this cup. And then I am going to tint this with my favorite color, one of my favorite colors, Cordovan. This is, what is that, 6007 is the color for this. And the Cordovan has, hard to see in my video, just looks like brown wood, but this has a little bit of that rose-colored, reddish Cordovan color, I guess, for no other better description. And we don't need a lot. We don't need a lot. Okay, so our G2 is 2-to-1, and I don't stress over the exact proportion and exact volume. You can either mix by volume or by weight, and they're different ratios, but I go by volume. And I'll tell you how I do this because we're working with such a small amount. I'm going to go ahead and put my hardener, and I just make a dot. Okay, so that's pretty easy to see. You see what I have there? Now it's 2 to 1, so all I need to do is make a dot like that on each side. So when this one's about that size, good. And when I jump over here, good. That's my 2 to 1 ratio. I always mix my epoxy first because it'll have a nice uniform color. I don't have any dye in here yet. That's gonna distract or impede my ability to see what I'm doing. Let's just make sure that it's all nice uniform. I don't have any real clear spots or concentrated amber spots where the hardener would be. This stuff lasts such a long time. I love this product, you know I do. You can use my name if you go to their website, type in Addison in the coupon code and enjoy a discount. Okay, so I tip my cup up like this. Transtant, another amazing product. This stuff is explosive in terms of color. So I'm using this quarter band and I really only need 1 drop. And 1 drop for this tiny amount of epoxy is going to be 10 times too much. So therein lies the dilemma. So watch what happens. I'll try and keep it separate as best I can. Well, you know what? Let's do it this way. I'm just going to put on the tippy tip of my mixing stick, we're going to put 1 dot of quarter band. There we go. Can you see it? That's on the tip of my bamboo. Watch this. Boom. I just love this stuff. Again, another purchase. Invest in great tools, right? Invest in great products. You look at that little bottle and you think, 25 bucks. I'm not paying $25 for dye. Well, I'll tell you what. Buy once, cry once. If you buy that material, if you buy Transtant dye, it's going to last you a lifetime. You'll never find yourself looking for material again in terms of coloration. Now, you can probably see that in my cup. You can see this kind of purpley look. That's that rosewood. I love the quarter band look. It'll be surrounded by the original wood and the original patina and the finish on the outside. So I'm not really worried about it, but I just don't like clear. I don't want to have a clear line. I want to have a little bit of color. It just makes it easier for me to blend this in. If I zoom in on this guy, there you go. This one had a little flag, and I just want to get a little bit of epoxy under that. So I'm just going to wet my bamboo. I do want some squeeze out, not a lot, but it lets me know that I've got good contact and I've got it wet. So we want that to be there. Okay, so we've glued our flag down. I'm going to load my tip up with a drop, and I'm just going to wet the inside. I'm not really worried about getting all the way out to the last millimeter. I know I'll have a little squeeze out. That's okay. And even if I didn't, let's just say that I have this Oreo cookie of epoxy and wood in the center is all wet, super cured, and permanently bonded. And the last little millimeter on the outside doesn't have anything in it. I'm okay with that. When we put our clear coat and wax it, it'll fill in whatever's left. And I know that we'll have a good bond. Okay, you liking it? I think we're there. Okay. There we go. I'm just going to set that guy down. And we'll go ahead and wet this one. Unlike tight bond or PVA glue, this does not need to be clamped to get a good bite. It's a chemical cure. And it's a slow cure. What you don't want to do is put 5-minute epoxy on. You're putting it on and it doesn't have time to saturate or soak into the pores, and then it cures. So it's like basically just a surface bond. We want it to get all the way in and stay in there. And we don't need clamps. We're just going to get it in place. Clamps will help us close our glue line, but they really have no bearing on the epoxy itself. Okay. Love it? Yes, we love it. Okay. I am going to go ahead and put a little bit of pressure on this to close that up, and we'll leave it and take a look at it tomorrow. We're on day 2, and you know the rules on epoxy. You don't need to squeeze it or clamp it to get good adhesion because it's chemical cure. However, I put clamps on to help ensure a tight joint. We got to make sure that we get this thing as tight as possible. And let's see what we have. Got a little bit of squeeze out here, which is good. That's just evidence to me that we've got epoxy where it needs to be. And I'm going to get a little bit out of focus there. We got a little run coming down here. That's okay. We can lift that back off. And the fact that I don't see the crack, I see the puddle, is a good thing. This side should be fine. There's a socket there, of course, for the casting to go into. And I'm kind of blocking my own light here, but this looks really good in here too. I'll use a little die maker's file to take the epoxy squeeze out of here. And then I have a tiny void right here, which I'm not concerned about that. We can set a sliver back in there and make that go away. So that's step number 1. We've got a big piece glued together. I'll set it this way for us. And we're on to number 2. Right, this is probably going to be number 3. So let's do this one. This is number 2 in our lineup. Go ahead and kind of set that in there. Kind of that's where we're headed. And then we'll line this guy up out here. Boop, just like that. Stay, good boy. Okay, that's kind of where we're headed. Now I see there's a huge gap back here. And that's probably this guy. And there's the finish right here. I see the exterior finish. And I'll bet you that's just going to slide right in here. But if I lift this off, let me give you a little bit better angle there. As we flip this over, right, this is where we did our glue up. If I flip him over, there's evidence that our epoxy had squeezed out a tiny bit, which is great. We know that we're bonded all the way out to the edge. Next in our lineup is going to be number 2, glue up number 2 that is, and that's going to be this piece. We're going to put him back in place. And I think that one's a really tight fit as well. We'll clamp it. Should be gorgeous. And then this sliver. This was something else that was in the package. And this shiny finished area is evidence that that's the outside. And I noticed that we had a big gap down here. So this guy, Humpty Dumpty, goes right there. Just like that. So I'll take a closer look without the camera in my face. So we'll see what this does, but we may be able to do this glue up and clamp him in place, and we'll do this one at the same time. I usually do one thing at a time and build up, but we put those both in place, and that will give us the ability then to do our fourth piece, which is here. And is this broken? Oh, it is. There's another glue up. Let's go ahead and do this one tonight too, and it will be all by itself, and I'm going to separate that. So we'll break him apart. So one is under the table already, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ultimately, that's where we're headed. Then we're going to have to do some work down here. There's a little bit of impact damage, and then we'll glue a piece in and shape it. So now you kind of see where we're headed. These are all really nice fits. I'm trying my absolute best to keep this original finish and patina out here because that always helps. So let's go ahead and glue up number 2, number 3, and maybe on the sidebar we'll go ahead and do number 4 over here. When we're getting to a sticky spot like this with a little sliver, it's always good to have proper PPE. So the manufacturer recommends gloves, which I do too. If I know my hands are going to be clear and I'm going to be away from it, I sometimes don't. In this case, the chance of me getting squeezed out of my fingertips, see there, I'm doing exactly what I said. So I went a little heavy. We've got some squeeze out, which is good. I do want to seal the joint, and that's what we've got. I'm going to put a tiny baby Bessie clamp on that. And we broke that little piece in half to put him back together, and we've got all 3. So we've done glue up number 1. It's mostly cured, and tonight we did 2, 3, and 4. So 3 more joints. Tomorrow we'll put this piece on the side, and then we'll just keep right on rolling. Okay, let's talk about what I'm doing real quick. This epoxy is less than 72 hours cured, so it's not fully cured. It's not hard yet, and although this doesn't hard like rock hard, or glass, it's not fragile, it's epoxy, so it's going to be a really awesome bite. But because it's less than 72 hours, it's just slightly malleable, if you will. I can get my blade under it, and because the original finish is still on the rosewood, I've got a layer of lacquer there. So it didn't penetrate, it didn't get into the pores of the wood because I didn't expose the pores of the wood. It's sitting on top of lacquer. So if I do this right, I can get under it and pop it off. I'll lose the finish, but I want to lose the finish anyway. I'm going to partially remove some of the lacquer and then feather this back in. What's my other option? It would be to file that or rasp it or try and cut it with a knife and then risk digging into the rosewood. And the whole objective here is to leave the original grain, the original rosewood all the way through. And that just helps me with hiding the break, right? If it's solid fiber and it's real rosewood, when you finish it, it looks like rosewood. That's the only answer that I have. People will say, you know, mix some epoxy with sawdust and pack it in there. And to me, because I work under magnification, it just jumps out as particle board. It's rosewood particle board mixed with epoxy packed in a gap. So I would rather V carve this out with a small hand tool, set a V piece of rosewood back in, and then level it off so that I have solid wood original fibers. And that's always the answer for me. It's going to be the easiest way to hide any crack, any gap, any restoration, and just use rosewood to hide rosewood. That's it. But anyway, let's get under this epoxy. I'll get off my little podium there, and I'll lift this epoxy up, and then we'll keep on going. And we didn't have to file this, and we didn't have to risk damage in the rosewood. See, now I have original rosewood with no lacquer finish, and that's cool. Epoxy's great stuff. This gets a really good bond, and you know, peeling this off so simply, I'm sure somebody's thinking, well, what good is that? That epoxy comes apart so easy. Well, I'm telling you, it was just puddled on top, sitting on lacquer. And I like doing this. I like lifting it off and not sticking my abrasive tools in here. Look at that. Nice. With any repair and with all the stuff that we're doing, I'm trying to share with you, I always talk about patience. Take your time. Just be patient. You start getting impatient. You want things to go faster. It's not always better. And I'm not going to be able to get 100% of this off. Where it's really a thin puddle, there's some stuff here. I'm just going to start digging into the rosewood, so I'll skip it. But where I've got some squeeze out and I got some bigger stuff. Yay, look at that. So we'll be able to lift this off too. Now I have a little puddle of rosewood right here, and this is exactly what I was just talking about. I'm going to V-carve that out, and then I'll insert a piece of rosewood so that it looks like this one, and you won't see the puddle. You could leave epoxy. If we were just doing a repair, that would be fine. It's strong and it's repaired. I get it. However, we're doing a restoration, and we want that break to disappear. So I'm going to make it disappear. Big difference. Okay, I think we're in good shape here. I can get on the inside here and lift a couple of these little squeeze outs as well, but it's hard for me to do that right in your face. So let's change the angle and we'll keep moving. So lots of handwork. This is a crescent shape. Rather than straight lines, I try and put some arcuate shapes in there, and that helps kind of break it out. But I do need a bonding surface over here on this side. And rather than watch me hand scrub on this thing and carve and fit it for the last however long, an hour, I decided to just shut the camera off and get to work. And now we're ready for glue up. So I'm getting ready to mix up System 3 G2 epoxy. And this is such a tight little fit and the angles are all right that we're just gonna wet it, glue it in place and let it cure. No clamping required on this guy. Well, it's getting exciting now. We're getting close. This is the time when you might want to rush, but you don't. You have to take your time, be patient. Remember what I always said about epoxy. You always save your cup, because what's in the cup is what's in your part. It's chemical, so it's going to cure. And when you're cured and ready to, safe to work, it's time to move forward. So now we're going to use a saw, and I'm going to hand cut this shape to stay away from the casting, stay away from the original rosewood. And we're going to get it nubbed down to where we can use our Iwasaki rasps and get a nice shape out of it. So happy with where we are. This is going to be the saw part. Takes a little time. Super fine teeth, and we're just going to go really slow. One of the things we have to do is cover up the new material. So you've got some new material here, and it is absolutely been sanded and just perfect. And it, to me, stands out. So if you put some little marks in it, it will blend in better. Make it look like part of the family. I know, it's a little unnerving, isn't it? You spent all this time trying to get things just right. And then you beat it all up. But that's what we have to do to make it look right. And I just tip it and look in the light. If you see a big smooth spot with no disruptions, that's usually a sanded area. So you just put a little bit of a dent in it. I like some tools with a lot of different shapes and features, but there you go. Just light distress, nothing major. And then we go back with a 4/0 steel wool, knock off any little things that I might have created if you made a little burr, raised it, and then hit it again. It's our final chapter, the final step. I don't talk a lot about finishing because my process and techniques vary so wildly across different projects, but here we are. We're fully restored. All of our rosewood's in place. I love where this came out. What I need to do now is, it's completely taped off. Obviously, it's been sprayed. So this has 4 coats of lacquer, but I just use a paste wax. This is my final step, and I want to cake it on there. I want to make sure that we really got a heavy coating. I've done this a couple times to build a good base. And I know I'm filling a few of the pores by doing this, but that's okay. We're just trying to get a really protective coating, but at the same time, I do not want gloss. We're not going for a shiny gloss, looks perfect, fresh sprayed appearance. This is a restoration. It's not a, a makeover, a do-over. We're not trying to make it look new. We're trying to make it look age appropriate. This is all protected. Obviously, we don't want to get our finished products on that at all. But I use a paste wax. We'll let that set because it will harden. I do put it on a little heavy. And then I go back with a 4/0 steel wool. And with the grain, we take that off just a little bit. And that's going to give it that matte look that we're hoping for. I'm not hitting the finished plane, of course. It's all protected. And just kind of run with the grain. I'll do this a few times. Sometimes I'll tamp the wax onto the handle and then just leave it so it looks like kind of a schmutzy, duller appearance. But that's what we're going for, just like that. Again, don't want shiny. You want it to look matte in a lot of areas and age appropriate, but yet at the same time, there are going to be a little bit of sheen, and there should be some shiny spots where someone's hand would be, where they would hold on to the tool. So expect this to be really dull and kind of matte on the top because you're just not getting a lot of activity there, but there would be a little bit of a sheen where the handle would be. So overall, we're done with this one. Let's go clean up and get ready for a photo session, and we'll do our final photos.